You working it because I know your intellect. You could tell just by the way you speak and the way you think. You're very intellectual and you look into things very deeply. All right. What was one main principle you learned from the bank that you actually incorporated either in your everyday life or into your music?
All right. The main thing I learned, and I tell this to everybody, I think every job teaches you that. If the owner for the company is very invested in you being there for 8 hours for his dreams, how much hours should you put into yours? Like, so I look at it and say, I have to at least put in a minimum 9 hours every day into what I love. Like, just like how that boss man has 2,500 people dedicating 9 hours every day for 5 days. That's how he became a billionaire. So I'm like, yo, so if I want to do this, I need to make sure I'm putting in a lot of hours into what I'm doing. If I'm doing overtime, I pay myself extra if I'm doing overtime. And here's me, if I put in the 12 hours, fine. So that's what I learned from the bank. Like, if I can get up at 5:30 every morning to accomplish the next person's dreams, I can do that for myself. Isn't me? Yeah, that's
very, 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 very smart. I got a real random last question here. The person on your wall behind you, Sugar Minott, what does it mean to you?
He's like, him and Michael Jackson are fight for it, you know? Fighting for that number one spot. Because ever since I've like fully, like, we all know Sugar Minott, but they don't really teach you about him as much as they do Bob. So when I fully started to dive into his music and find out that he's really the original dancehall man, I was like, oh, so he's the man accredited with the first dancehall album. He's dancehall. So I am dancehall. So it's not just this new sound. It's like, it can be from this time too. Street Sweeper and Greetings and, you know, these songs, like these are dancehall songs. I'm like, yo, oh. So it just, like, it made me see what dancehall was lacking. One, so he's just an eye opener. He's just a man that made me feel like no matter what, I can make it, because his story is interesting. It's almost similar to mine. That's why I like him. Like, he had to make his own sound because nobody wanted to play him. He had to become his own producer because nobody wanted to produce him. He had to write his own songs. He had to put on other people because nobody else wanted to put them on. We wouldn't know about Yami Bolo, Junior Reid. We wouldn't know about any tenor saw. We wouldn't know about most of these people without he break the most artists. So I'm like, that's me. I want to do that. I want to do all of that. I want to make good music, be a hit, because he took over Japan like how Bob took over America and the rest of the places. So you can be big and successful and still share and still, you know what I mean? That's his thing for me. His thing is not even just music. It's about how he defied the odds. That's really what stands out for me. Like, you know what I mean? And he wasn't signed to no major nothing like nobody else. And he still has that. If you play Sugar Minott in the dance, shut off your bus. Like, that's the truth.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Wow. This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinedmusichut.com.